Are you ready to talk about Dead Ringers?
I don't think I can ever truly be ready. All
This
right.
is it.
The final Cronenberg Time Machine sound, I think it's just a similar sound to all of the Time Machine sounds I've done for Cronenberg movies, which is kind of weird squishy sounds.
This was released September 23rd, 1988. Twin gynecologists take full advantage of the fact that nobody can tell them apart. Boy, do they, until their relationship begins to deteriorate over a woman. That's the IMDb synopsis. This is not a plot-heavy movie.
Nope.
This was the #1 movie in America the week it came
So
out.
sweet. Let's start there.
Yeah, it beat A Fish Called Wanda, Die Hard, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Number 5 was Cocktail.
You a Cocktail fan?
Okay, so it's been a long time since
Me
I've seen
too.
it. My dad's a big Tom Cruise guy. And he likes Tom Cruise movies, and he would watch Cocktail a lot. Whenever it was on TV, a Cocktail was on.
Didn't get turned off.
You a Cocktail guy?
It's been too long. I'm kind of with you. I want to say I remember thinking it was kind of fun, but
So I think I liked it, but I don't. The thing with Risky Business, like I always get them in my head together. Risky Business and Cocktail.
Color of Money, I kind of get weirdly thrown in there too. It's a different movie.
I think it's young Tom Cruise and kind of like playing like a flashy playboy.
kind of a playboy.
Yeah. Risky Business a little darker. Cocktail is kind of light and fluffy at times.
Yeah, Cocktail's kind of silly and fun for the most part. Risky Business is one of those movies where it's like Saturday Night Fever, where like on the surface it's kind of goofy and silly and ridiculous, but then like when you really sit down and watch it, you're like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
there's some stuff going on here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cocktail was Bermuda. There's the Beach Boys song, right? Bahamas, with John Stamos on the drums.
Kokomo.
In the video.
Yep.
Kokomo, yeah.
Yeah, they played it on Full House a couple times.
He played with when I lived up north, they had the fair up there, and he played with the Beach Boys up there. Yeah.
John Stamos, current voice of Iron Man in the animated Marvel stuff.
Are there animated Marvel? There's animated Marvel stuff going on.
There's a Spider-Man show, I think.
Is that the kids one? Like the really kiddie
I
one?
believe so.
Yeah. I've seen bits of that.
Yeah, I think he's Iron Man on that.
Oh, that's cool.
Show.
Good for John. Good for John. Still working.
Why not?
Yeah, the #1 song in America, by the way, it was from
Kokomo?
Yeah, Don't Worry, Be Happy from which is so the #1 movie in America was Dead Ringers. The #1 song in America was Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Well, it's 88, and we're in a weird. The last 2 years of any decade and the first 2 years of any decade are weird.
Yes.
It's those transitional. We haven't fully found out what the decade is going to be yet. And so, yeah, 88's, we're in a weird transition. Strangely enough, neither one of the things, the song or the movie that were in the top here, would be representative of, as a whole, the 80s or of the 90s. So,
yeah,
kind of strange.
Don't worry, be. That's the video. Robin Williams, I think, is in that video, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love Robin.
Mm-hmm. So this is written and directed by Cronenberg. Mm-hmm. There's a co-writer, Norman Snyder, who did. He has like a weird filmography, if I remember. It's a lot of like cheesy, like B-level stuff. Other than this, which kind of makes it like he did he did Call Me, The Rise and Fall of Heidi Fleiss, and he did Rated X, which was that Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez movie about like brother pornographer directors or something.
Oh.
He also wrote the screenplay for Body Parts. So
he's got a weird thing with brothers being involved in salacious.
Yes.
Has anybody checked on him?
And then before we get into our thoughts, starring it's Jeremy Irons, real quick. Of course, Alfred from Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Hey, let's not forget his greatest credit, Mage Profion in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, you're a big Dungeons and Dragons guy, aren't you?
No, I'm just a big fan of the one clip that's on YouTube of him.
Yeah,
I've never actually seen the film. This is not gonna be the best audio ever, but I'm gonna play it out loud because I think it's important that Tim, you hear it again.
Yeah.
Just because it's so good. But when I pull it up, I'm gonna make sure I let you guys know. If you go on YouTube and you just search this, "Let their blood rain from the sky." It's the first video that pops up.
Okay. timestamping this, so just in case I don't get lazy and I can splice it into, but go ahead and play it.
Excellent. This is a 7-second clip from the film Dungeons and Dragons, and this is the great Jeremy Irons as Mage Profion.
Let the blood rain from the sky!
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to splice that in. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do
It's pretty good. I want to do it one more time.
Go for it.
Just for a good measure.
Let the blood rain from the sky!
It's very good. So just know that there's a lot of good stuff from him in the film, because that's all I've watched of it. Marlon Wayans is in that movie.
Marlon Wayans is in that movie.
It's true.
Yeah. You got a favorite Marlon Wayans? I like Marlon.
Marlon's sweet. Yeah. Marlon's sweet. I always wanted to see Marlon play Robin.
Yeah, that was that rumor that was supposed to be Batman Forever, right?
Yeah, he was like cast.
Yeah.
There's like apparently.
Was that when Burton was still attached?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's screen test videos of him in costume and stuff.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it got that far. That's my understanding. That it got that far. Weird
that the Warner Brothers DC movie fell apart.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Where did they have a history?
That's just nuts. They did bring his character into the Batman '89 comics.
Yeah,
though.
I read the first issue of that, and it was cool. But
anyway, yes, Marlon Wayans. My favorite Marlon Wayans performance is, I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. Honestly, probably Requiem for a Dream, because he's really, like, as far as like from an act, he's incredible in it.
Yeah.
But I'm a big White Chicks fan.
I like White Chicks too. White Chicks was on the other day. Well, actually, it's been a while. Yeah.
I think it's
White
very
Chicks,
funny.
White Chicks is funny. Don't Be a Menace, also good.
Also very good. Yeah, good stuff.
Why are we talking about Marlon Wayans?
Do you remember the film The Lady Killers?
Yeah.
Marlon's in that.
Marlon is in that. Yeah,
This is not.
Jump back and forth between dramatic and
This is not my theater experience, but I'm going to share it very quickly, and then we'll move on from Marlon. It's sad to let him go, but we're going to move on from him.
I was just questioning it. I was not stopping us
Okay,
from talking about
fair
Marlon Wayans.
Somebody I know, I don't actually remember who it was in a screening of The Lady Killers, and not too far into it, a lady in the audience said, she clearly was displeased with the film she was watching. She goes, "Marlon, what you done?" And I always liked that. Like, this is a quote from Marlon, "What you done?" Like pure disappointment.
Yeah. Now, she was watching The Lady Killers at the
Yes.
time, so she had gone to the movie.
I think she went for Marlon.
And she was so disappointed in the midst of the film
that she out loud said, "Marlon, what you done?" Passionately. But my understanding is she stayed. She saw it through, so good for her.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Maybe it turned around. That's not the Coen Brothers' best film. But,
no, it's not.
Just a few also good about Jeremy Irons. We'll go back to him. He's an exceptionally good horseman, and he enjoys skiing, but he hates cooking. He loves gardening and the beauty of nature.
None of this surprises me.
He's a BMW motorcycle enthusiast, but he's sped a lot, apparently. Oh. They talk about him speeding a lot. He was born. IMDb is so weird on their actors trivia page. Born at 2 a.m. British Standard Time.
Okay.
He owns Kilco Castle in County Cork, Ireland, and has become involved in local politics, as many actors and actresses do, even if you don't want them to.
Even if you'd rather they don't.
Yes. He narrated the Spaceship Earth attraction at Epcot. Now, this is important to me because this
You're a big Epcot fan.
I'm a big Epcot fan, and this is the ride in the ball, and this is now narrated by the delightful Dame Judi Dench, who apparently took over. She kicked Jeremy Irons out and said, no.
Well, he was busy with his political ambitions, so his gardening ambitions as well. No, I think it's lovely. I love to think of him out there, tending to the garden. It's delightful.
And he did think this will lead us into, I think, the movie. Mm-hmm. He won the Oscar at the 1990 Oscars. He won an Oscar, and in his acceptance speech for Best Actor in Reversal of Fortune, he thanked David, and that was David Cronenberg.
Very cool. Yeah. I think that he did that. Yeah, he's also one of only, I believe, 9 actors to achieve the Triple Crown.
Yes,
which is kind of fun. So
yeah, what is that? Emmy,
Tony, and Oscar for acting.
An accomplished. I like Jeremy Irons quite a bit.
Big fan of his.
My favorite performance is Scar.
I mean, yeah, he's incredible.
Honestly, yes.
He's one of the great Disney villains, and there's a lot of good Disney villains. He's also a ton of fun in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yes, I think he's really good at that.
Really fun.
And that's a tough role to do because there are some. Hans is such an iconic villain as well,
But
and there are similarities between the two brothers and the two characters, and he makes it his own. And I think he's a great villain too. That character.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Love Jeremy Irons.
Yes. All right. So Willie,
Dead Ringers.
tell me what you thought of Dead Ringers. Is this your first time?
No.
Dead Ringers? Okay.
I have seen it before, but it's been a long time. This might as well have been my first time. Because it's been a long time. I don't know if my memory was foggy on it, or if I watched this way back when expecting it to be like a straight horror film, and it's not really. It is, but it isn't. It's not the kind of horror film I would have been watching back then, certainly. But or maybe I just blocked it from my memory. Because there's a lot that I might block from my memory for this viewing.
Well, it's weird too because, like you said, when I see the title Dead Ringers and I see David Cronenberg in the 80s, Dead Ringers is kind of a schlocky title.
It is.
As it is. And I would think, like, if you just walked in and rented it, it's straight horror. This is not.
No. And when I had seen this, I definitely would have seen The Fly at this point. I would have seen Scanners more than likely. Those two for sure. I don't think I would have necessarily seen Videodrome. I can guarantee you I saw The Fly and Scanners for sure. So this wasn't necessarily what I would have expected from the Cronenberg stuff I had seen at the time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see Videodrome until later. The Brood I didn't see until later. So anyway, it was all based on what did my video store carry. And I think the 3 Cronenberg movies they had were The Fly, Scanners, and Dead Ringers. So this is basically my first time in a lot of ways. And just general thoughts, it is not my favorite Cronenberg movie of the ones we've talked about. The Fly still holds that title. I think this is the best movie of the bunch.
Okay. Ooh.
I think it's the best one.
You said you were going to come with a hot take.
I think this is the best of the movies. I think this might be his best movie.
Okay.
I know.
Now, so I'm going to ask you here. So when you say best, now are you thinking
Craft
in terms of quality, or do you think like maybe like this is the best? This is kind of like when sometimes I think like because I maybe see what you're saying here. Prince of Darkness is Carpenter's best movie because it embodies a lot of Carpenter's themes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I see what you're saying. So there, you're right. There's different ways. So it's not my favorite. Mm-hmm. So I'll throw that definition of best out the window. It is not the most representative of all of Cronenberg's stuff, and I think that's what you're kind of. It's like this perfect.
Right.
When you're thinking of a filmmaker where it's like, if somebody's like, "Hey, what's a good movie to get the complete vibe of this director?" Prince of Darkness is actually a really good call.
Right.
For Carpenter's, like if you want to like a marriage of all the stuff he likes to do. I don't think this is that for Cronenberg necessarily. I think The Fly still kind of is that for Cronenberg. I just think this is his best made movie. Like okay. I think like the performances are all great. It's got a plot that, well, it gets crazy and nuts. It all makes sense. It's a story that's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. The characters might not always be the most likable people, but God, are they watchable? And that's the case with a lot of Cronenberg stuff. Irons is fantastic, like phenomenal in this. Like you can immediately tell which character he's playing. The score is great, and I've loved the scores in kind of everything, all these Cronenberg movies. Like I've been blown away by all the scores.
This is Howard Shore, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, he's back in this one.
The direction is great. The cinematography is great. Like I kind of love it. Like the themes are great. I think the way he wraps up both the plot and thematically ties everything up is kind of perfect. I think the movie kind of ends perfectly. It might be his best in terms of like craft, like pure craft, like filmmaking. This might be his best movie. I'd have to rewatch some more, but I mean, I think there's certainly an argument to be made for The Fly in that respect, but man, I don't know. This is really good stuff. Like, just from a pure filmmaking perspective, it is not easy to watch, which is not exactly shocking if you've been listening to us talk about Cronenberg for the last month or so. It is a tough watch. This is not a movie I would go back to a lot, and I think it's just because it is. I mean, this is not a feel-good movie. Not that his other ones are, but there's nothing. This is not to me. This is not an immensely rewatchable film. It's a movie you maybe see a couple times in your lifetime, and you're like, "Whoa, man, oh man," and that for me is why like The Fly would be a favorite as opposed to this. I always kind of count my favorites as the ones I like to go back to frequently. But I really think this is like Cronenberg, and I've seen all of his stuff pre-Dead Ringers and most of his stuff post. And this is Cronenberg's in this. Okay, so I'm trying to think. I'm going to compare this to Stephen King, which I think is a fair comparison, right? I mean, Cronenberg did Dead Zone, so I think that in a lot of ways, the book It, is the culmination of everything Stephen King did from Carrie all the way through, and it's kind of his final word on that first chapter of his work as an author before he'd move on to what was next. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
It feels like the end point, like the climax of that. This feels like the climax and the end point for this era of Cronenberg. It's because everything I think he learned from his previous experiences in movies he's made, he has ironed out all that stuff, and he's really like 100% on top of his game for this movie. So I really liked this. I won't watch it again for a long time, but I really liked it. This has been the most enjoyable part of, not that I haven't enjoyed watching Cronenberg, this has been the most enjoyable part of the summer of Cronenberg for me, was seeing this again and going, whoa, okay, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But I can see why like a lot of people might not love this movie. I'm curious to see what you thought. I can see you going the opposite, perhaps, you know what I mean, where it's like, but yeah. What did you think?
No, I don't. I'm not going to go on it.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious how you could go on this. Like, but I will say some of the stuff you mentioned is kind of how I feel, because I'm less enthusiastic about this movie. This in a way is a great capper to the 80s Cronenberg series we've been doing, because you're right, it encapsulates everything that we've been talking about in this movie, but it also leads into that more clinical era of his filmography with stuff like Spider and Existence, and even like the more recent like Cosmopolis and Dangerous Method and stuff. And honestly, that's the stuff where with Cronenberg where I respect it, and I respect that people really like it. It's not for me though.
It loses you a little bit.
Yeah, because and I think a lot of it is because it is so cold and clinical and emotionless. I like stuff like The Fly because I had a blast with The Fly.
Yeah,
this time around.
It's great.
So
phenomenal.
And even stuff like Scanners, I really had fun with, and Videodrome as well, because there's a human element to it. And you summed it up with, these are interesting characters to watch, and I'm not a person who's like, I gotta have a character I like in it because I just have to find some empathy, some humanity, and I'm able to find that with characters in this movie. But it's also
even the brothers. There's moments,
yes,
and they're hard to latch on to.
But there is a part of you that just feels bad for just how
sad they are.
Yeah. Like there's a sadness to it, and you do kind of, even though they're just gross and awful, you do just kind of feel like, just on a human level, just kind of feel sad and bad for them.
Yeah,
this is an unsettling movie, but there is a detachment to it as well, and it's Cronenberg in scientist mode for hour and 50 minutes, and that's, I think, the other thing. I think it goes a little too long for me, and because you know how I am, I get restless and I get impatient.
Yeah, I get that. This is the longest, I think, of the films we watched.
I believe so. Yeah. So, anyway, that's where I'm at, but I can't take away from the fact of how well made it is, how great looking it is, the colors, the mix of like the red and the silver and the gray and all, like the coldness, and
it's a beautifully made film.
Yeah. And Jeremy Irons, the lead performances are very good, but Jeremy Irons is spectacular in this movie, and I believe in some ways the part of the reason he thanked Cronenberg, and he probably has said something about it in interviews of why he did it, but I feel like up to this point, like this was Cronenberg letting him kind of do his thing, kind of letting him loose and do his thing, and that a lot of recognition from this movie may have led to him getting more recognition the next year when 100%. He won an Oscar. So it's one of those. This is one of those performances that happens in a genre flick that maybe didn't get the respect it deserves because of where Cronenberg was at the time too, which was coming off a lot of. I think certain critics liked him, but he was. And we've read through Fangoria.
He was a horror director.
He was a horror director, and a lot of people looked at his stuff as schlock and didn't look a lot deeper or didn't look deeper into it. And maybe this performance didn't or doesn't, and I think it has now because I think a lot of people recognize it as being great, but maybe didn't get the respect it deserved at the time. So
I could see Irons maybe feeling like, if you were going to nominate me, maybe that was the one that because you can tell he put a lot of himself into the like poured a lot of his energy into it and stuff. I mean, it can't be easy to play, these two characters. And I know that he had a lot of techniques he, had to use to differentiate the two. He had like separate wardrobes and separate trailers for each character and stuff.
Right?
And he wound up ixnaying that probably mostly from a
like a logistical reason.
Yeah, practical stuff. You know. But he talked about how he would shift the weight of his feet depending on who he's playing. So if he was playing one of the brother, let's say Beverly, he would shift the weight to his heels of his feet throughout the scene. So he'd have a little bit of a different posture, slightly different walk and stuff like that. Kind of fun, And then the other guy, he would shift the weight to his front of his feet. So it's kind of cool that he would, it tells me that he probably put a lot of work into these dual roles, and I'm sure that he was probably just appreciative of the chance to do something like this. How many actors get a chance to sink their teeth into two characters in one movie? It doesn't happen that often. Yeah,
and this was one of the first movies to use that kind of matte technology too. And honestly, it looks really great.
Pretty seamless.
Yeah, and Cronenberg is perfect for that kind of stuff. But it looks. I've seen stuff that's been made since then using the same sort of technology, and it does not look as good as it does in this movie. It's pretty.
I can't think of a time where I went, "Oh, okay, that looks off."
Yeah, I would look for it, but I think maybe one or two, but honestly, it never took me out of the movie, and that's happened before. So real quick before we get into the plot, we've watched 5 movies now, Cronenberg in the 80s.
5, wow, yeah.
You want to rank them real quick?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
Sure.
You go first, and then I'll go.
Are we going lowest to highest? What are we doing? Or just ranking them?
Let's go lowest. So let's go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. 5 for me is probably Scanners. And that's not to say I didn't like it. It's just I think out of the bunch, I probably liked it the least. 4 is probably Dead Zone. 3 is... Man, this is tough. 3 is Videodrome, 2 is Dead Ringers, 1 is Fly. There we go. That's what I'm going to go with right now. I think Videodrome and Dead Ringers could be
interchangeable.
There.
Yeah. I can see that. And I'm going to go 5 Scanners, 4 Dead Ringers, 3 The Dead Zone, 2 Videodrome, 1 The Fly.
We're not that far off.
No, I think.
Yep.
So, okay. Are you ready? Anything else before we dive into the plot?
Yeah, it's not a plot-heavy movie, so I don't think we're exactly going to be,
It's like 4 paragraphs out of Wikipedia, so
it's amazing.
I'll stop after. Yeah, because
each paragraph, break it up. Yeah, do that. That's great.
Twins Elliot and Beverly Mantle are gynecologists who jointly operate a highly successful clinical practice in Toronto, we're back in Canada, that specializes in treating fertility problems. Elliot, the more confident and cynical of the two, seduces women who come to the Mantle Clinic. When he tires of them, the women are passed on to the shy and passive Beverly, while the women remain unaware of their substitution. Okay, so that's the end of that paragraph. It's pretty gross, right? This was based very loosely, I think, on a true story.
Yes, there were twin gynecologists. They did some shady stuff.
I have a
twin magic.
Yeah.
they did get addicted to drugs, and they did die together.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a. This is from I think the New York Post. It's Doctors Double Treasure, from the original article.
Yeah.
I clipped a little bit, and it says it was like the lead in this is it was like a scene from Superfly, is how it starts. And I go, first of all, these two gentlemen look nothing like Superfly. But they said they first reported in the New York Daily News. That's what it is. Cyril was lying face down on the bed in a pair of shorts. Stewart's body was found on the floor in another room near an identical matching bed, lying face up and completely naked. The handyman told the police the place was disheveled with large amounts of cash scattered throughout the apartment. There were no signs of struggles. One of the armchairs was covered in human excrement. This sounds like nothing like Superfly. I just want you to know.
No.
So, but there were some quotes from some of the women who dealt with them, who one of them says, having been in attendance was horrible. One checked with his fingers to see how far I was dilated, then called his brother and had him check too. Then they did it again. It was painful enough to have one person checking the dilation, excruciating to have two people do it. It was also, I should add, totally unnecessary, but they didn't. They did it anyway.
Yeah.
It was if one couldn't bear to do something without sharing what he was doing with his brother.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the real life story of
Yeah, it wasn't. They weren't doing a. It wasn't as far as them tricking people into, oh, it's not me. It's, you know what I'm saying. They weren't swapping each other out or anything, but they were doing skeevy stuff at their practice for each other's weird enjoyment. So yeah. And the freaky part is one of them died. I believe one of them died straight up. It was a drug overdose. And then the other one died like a day later. So he was like bopping around the apartment with his brother's corpse in the apartment for a full day. And then he died, and they don't really know how.
Weird.
Like there was no, the stuff normally associated with withdrawal symptoms was not present.
Okay.
So like, how'd that guy die? It's bizarre. So I can see why Cronenberg was like, what?
Right.
This is fascinating.
Yes. So it's a gross true story. It's also, this is a sensationalized version, like you mentioned, in some ways of that true story.
Of course, yeah. But it's closer than you would expect.
I was going to say,
Yeah. When you see based on a true story, you go, oh, okay, all right, But this is not insanely far off from what the truth was, so.
Actress Claire Nouveau comes to the clinic for her infertility, where it turns out she has a trifurcated cervix. Yes. I knew I was going to have problems with that, meaning she probably will be unable to have children. Elliot seduces Claire and then urges Beverly to sleep with her. Beverly becomes emotionally attached to Claire, and this upsets the equilibrium between the twins.
I believe he says you must try her, which is horrific.
Right.
Like
there are some incredibly blunt lines in this movie that their bluntness makes me laugh, and then I go, God.
Because you're uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. No, 100%. If I'm chuckling at stuff in this movie, it's because I'm feeling kind of like, oh.
I think that's the other thing, too, that maybe I don't warm to about this movie is it is a bleak, it is not a funny movie.
No.
At all.
No.
And when you do laugh, like you said, it's because you're uncomfortable with she says, like, tell me, doctor, how's my uterus? How's my uterus look? Or something like a line to that effect.
Sorry, what?
And I remember I laughed at just the bluntness of it.
Yeah.
Beverly becomes emotionally attached to Claire, and Beverly also begins sharing Claire's abuse of prescription drugs, which he abets through his doctor's authority. When Claire learns that Elliot has been taking sexual advantage of her by impersonating Beverly, she's angry and confronts them both in a restaurant, but later decides to continue a relationship with Beverly exclusively.
Okay, so I could see some people saying that the Claire character and her actions in the movie are problematic, I think is the term people use. I don't like that term, but you know what I mean.
Right.
I actually am okay with this situation, and here's why. I actually think that there's agency in the Claire character saying, I like Beverly, I like him, and yeah, this is pretty messed up what happened, but I like this guy. And she's damaged. I mean, she's got some serious stuff going on. It's not like she's necessarily in her right frame of mind all the time. She's taking drugs. She's going through some serious emotional turmoil regarding not being able to carry and things like that. And so she's got a lot going on. But I do think that I immediately went like, ooh, that's kind of gross that she's like still wanting to hang out, but like she makes it pretty clear what her intention. Like she likes Beverly, and she wants to see him still, and she's pretty good about like laying it out there. Like I don't know, I kind of appreciated the fact that she stood up for herself and was like, "This is what I want."
It is her choice. It's her life. Yeah. I think that comes across.
Yep.
I will say there are some criticisms of, and I think the movie forgets about her for a little bit though too.
It gets okay. I will say this, and I think you mentioned before. It goes a little long for you. The downfall of the drug abuse stuff with Beverly goes on longer than it needs to.
Yeah.
And that's where she disappears from the picture. Because she can't be in the picture for that to properly play out.
Right.
Her absence is what keeps him moving in that downward spiral. And his paranoia and his jealousy and stuff. I think what would solve both those problems, her not being literally in the picture for a good chunk of the movie there, and also the runtime would be maybe truncating some of the Beverly struggle stuff a little bit more. I think we could still accomplish the same thing and show how far he's fallen and how addicted he is without necessarily spending a huge chunk of time on it. So,
the actress is very good at Genevieve Bujold.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with her.
No, Now, I think I knew this about her, but I think I knew this about her, but I didn't really know. Like, it didn't connect with me until I read the trivia. But she was originally supposed to be Captain Janeway on Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, cool.
So
I could see that.
Yeah, she left after a few days of filming. The schedule was too much for her, and that's when they reached out to Kate Mulgrew, who's
wonderful.
Yeah, and who would it was kind of an iconic performance.
She your favorite Star Trek captain?
No, I like Janeway.
Yeah. I mean, look, we can talk about Star Trek here because Cronenberg
is in Star Trek Discovery. Yes. Who Discovery's had a different captain like every season, so that one doesn't even count.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It started with what's my man's name from Jason Isaacs.
What?
Yeah, he played Captain Lorca, and then it moved on to I think if I remember now right now I think it might be Doug Jones who is playing Saru.
He's been on the show.
He's been on the show since the beginning. Yeah.
Anthony Rapp is on the show.
Anthony
too?
Rapp is on the show. He plays kind of like an engineer. Okay. Yeah, it's a good cast. But no, my favorite. I'm a Kirk guy. Janeway is tough because I'm not a huge Voyager fan. My wife loves Janeway.
Yeah,
because she was the first female captain
sure.
as well, and Amy watched a lot of Star Trek Voyager as a young.
Kate Mulgrew, very good. I never watched the entirety of the show, but I've seen a couple seasons. It was good, but she's very good on Orange is the New Black.
Yeah,
she's quite good on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's cool.
So yeah, I think I'm probably.
You're
boring.
A Cisco guy. That's just
Cisco is not necessarily a captain though, because he works at the space station.
Oh, that's true.
Well, I mean, wait a minute though. Is he?
He's a captain.
Yeah. anyway, just a second.
He was invited to the captain's celebration, so he's a psychopath, right?
Yeah, he doesn't even show up. So yeah.
I always thought Cisco was a captain. I didn't realize.
Well, wait a minute. I'm trying to see if he was.
We're not talking about the thong song Cisco, by the way. We are talking about the Star Trek character.
If he ever became, because he's a commanding officer on Deep Space Nine, but he does become captain. Yeah, in the later seasons. Okay, he's a commander in 1 through. That's what I thought. He's a commander in the first couple seasons, and then he becomes a captain in seasons 3 through 7 of the USS Defiant.
Excellent, played by the great Avery Brooks.
That was going to bother me.
We're deep diving some Star Trek stuff. Anyway,
where were we?
Eventually, Claire leaves town to work on another film, sending Beverly into clinical depression, more prescription drug abuse, and paranoid delusions about mutant women, which is what, with abnormal genitalia. That's what they refer to them in the movie.
So they don't mention it here in the Wikipedia summary, but I wanted to mention just when I thought that we didn't have enough body horror in the movie, because I shouldn't say that. There's plenty of horrific stuff involving bodies, specifically female bodies in the movie.
Yeah.
There's some scenes, some like gynecological scenes, and he's not. What I love about it is Cronenberg knows that this is not a subject where he can get super like photographically graphic with it, So that when there are scenes involving like gynecological examinations or abuse in some circumstances, we don't see things. Thank God. I'm so happy Cronenberg had the sense to, and it becomes more horrifying because we are not. We don't see it. We're hearing the reaction of the patient and the just kind of the I don't know, the blasé attitude of the Irons brothers. I'll call them.
Right.
But no, I wanted to mention the dream sequence.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
So just as I got to like, man, we're not having. There's really no room for like classic surrealist, crazy body horror in this. I think it's Beverly has a dream where he is physically fused, like a Siamese twin situation with a conjoined twin situation with his brother, and he's in bed with Claire, and she starts biting them apart. It's really horrifying stuff. So I'm glad Cronenberg was able to insert that in there. That was nice.
Yes, yeah. It's almost like it's kind of like it was almost like a bone thrown to some of his horror fans.
Oh, for sure,
it's
but
like,
it works.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I know. Maybe some of you,
you're looking for it,
are getting impatient with this, and here you go. And I went, oh God, that's gross. This is where I thought you're going. Beverly seeks out metallurgical artist Anders Wallach and commissions a set of bizarre gynecological instruments for operating on these mutant women.
Anders Wallach, played by the lead from Scanners.
Yes, he's back. Short role, but small role. But Beverly prepares to operate on a patient during surgery with one of Wallach's tools, while his shocked surgical team exchanges horrified glances. Before he can proceed, the drug-addled doctor drops one of the tools on the ground and then collapses atop the patient and begins to inhale from her gas mask. Both brothers are immediately suspended from practice and put on administrative leave by the hospital board. I would think so. I would hope so.
I love that they're very to the point on that. Like, it doesn't. There's no goofing around. It's not like, oh, one brother's in trouble and the other one's not. It's a quick, like, you guys are done. Like, you're nuts. You brought torture equipment into a surgery and you gas masked yourself. Yeah.
The red surgical outfits,
they're so sweet.
They are sweet. They're also very probably inaccurate because like red is not a color you would want to be wearing while doing surgery just for eyes. Really, it's hard on the eyes, but it's also it reminds me of course, like the Handmaid's Tale and what it's supposed to and kind of what it represents, which is like the color red, the blood, the menstrual blood, basically, is what it was connected. Yeah, with me. So
there's also a cultish.
Yes, very much
There's
so.
a weird kind of eerie cultish vibe about the outfits they're wearing too.
And a lot of the movie's color scheme is kind of bathed in red as well. It's that color is kind of surrounding, kind of creeping in through the edges too.
Yeah. I always love that visual style. You see it in movies here and there where they'll sprinkle that red in relatively sanitary and not colorless, but like lots of cold colors, and then all of a sudden you'll see that red sprinkled in. I really dig that stuff.
Yes.
The recent Thor had a lot of that in it, strangely enough. There was a little bit of that color play in the new Thor movie.
There was.
Yeah. I always appreciate that. So.
Mm-hmm. I bet you Taika Waititi is
He's seen Dead Ringers.
I bet you he likes Dead Ringers.
He does.
With their medical careers now ruined, Elliot locks Beverly inside the clinic and tries to clean him up, taking pills himself in order to synchronize with Beverly. When Claire returns, Beverly leaves the clinic to be with her. After recovering his sobriety, he returns to the clinic, which he finds in shambles and Elliot despondent and intoxicated. Their positions have become reversed as Beverly cares for Elliot. Drugged and despairing, they celebrate their mock birthday, and Elliot volunteers to be killed so as to separate the Siamese twins and allow Beverly to live his own life. Beverly disembowels Elliot on an exam table with the same claw-like instrument of Wallach's that he planned to use on his patient in the operating room. A lot to take in there, so let's stop.
This is where I was like, whoa.
Yeah, those they're like torture devices. What
they're horrifying.
Yeah.
And this is a rough scene.
This is where the movie gets really rough.
It's dark stuff.
These guys, like they don't want to get separated from each other. They feel like they can't be separated.
They're codependent.
They're terrified.
Beyond.
Yeah, that's what scares. That and women.
Like
Yes.
the women scare the hell out of him.
Terrified of him.
Yes, and that's where you almost because you see in the beginning of the movie they ask they're young boys and they ask a young girl like, "Will you have sex with us in the bathtub?"
Yeah.
is how they said. So like they're sexually curious, but they're also like they have no idea how to interact.
They don't know how to interact, and they cannot fathom having a sexual, or not even just a sexual relationship, like a relationship, a romantic relationship with a woman without the other brother being part of it,
Right.
in some way, shape, or form.
There's
And
a
that-
lot going on there.
There is. I mean, there's literally a moment in the film where Elliot, not verbally suggests, but makes a suggestion that the brothers should be in a three-way.
Have a
with
three-way, yeah.
somebody. Yeah. So like, there is a symbiotic relationship that is very much in their like that primordial part of their brains that they can't turn off. And when one of them, Beverly, winds up in a relationship, solo relationship, as kind of laid out there by Claire, saying, "I want to be in a relationship with Beverly, not Elliot, not both of you, Beverly, and only Beverly." As soon as that happens, the guy falls apart.
Yeah.
He falls to pieces. And yes, part of that is being introduced to some of the drugs, but like there's more than that, because this is a guy who's been around plenty of prescription drugs throughout his entire adult life, being a doctor, and has not had any sort of, that we can tell, issues with any of that. And the second that he gets in this relationship, that he now has to bear the burden of and the responsibility of being in a relationship that he is now like his brother's not there to help him. There's no fallback plan or anything. Like, he falls apart. He falls to pieces.
Yeah.
So and there, like you said, there's.
We didn't even mention the scene were they prostitutes? The twin.
Yes, Elliot.
Is it Jill Hennessy?
It
who's
is
the
Jill
actress?
Hennessy,
Yeah,
yeah.
she was on Law and Order. Was she crossing Jordan?
Crossing Jordan? Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I always
Yes.
liked that show.
It was Jill and her sister was the other.
who I don't
actress.
believe did a ton of acting. I think Jill was the one who went on to do
Right.
more stuff. But yeah, Elliot's got a twin thing. There's a whole thing going on there. I mean, it's just, yeah. There's a lot going on with regard to. I don't think it's like it's, and because I don't think Cronenberg would be all that interested in it. It's not that Elliot and Beverly want to have it like a relationship with each other. It's not an incestuous thing per se. It's a mental, borderline psychic link between the two of them.
It's
that they literally cannot function without the other person being there.
Yes, it's almost that's what it's almost like they need each other there because of that relationship.
Yep.
They want to be with each other for
Yes.
that. And you're right, it's not like a sexual thing.
It's not.
Yeah,
It's not. I mean, I don't
It
think
is,
they
but it
wouldn't.
isn't. Yeah.
They wouldn't be. I don't think they would. That would be something that they would be above being involved in. Certainly,
Right.
Especially Elliot. He seems like he's like whatever. But
He's down to cloud. He's ready to go.
yeah, whatever. But it is more about. I don't think that either one of these two, can feel genuine emotion, real healthy emotion, without the other one being there to share it with them. It's just they can't do it. And so then, and ultimately, when Beverly kills Elliot, which is rough, just horrifying stuff. I have a thing about disembowelment that I know that sounds silly, but it's true.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that at some point. But when he kills Elliot and wakes up out of this kind of drug-induced sleep he was in, he's immediately, and it's really sad. Like, even though you're like, I have no sympathy for these people at this point. I do have some empathy for them because they are just sad human beings. I don't feel bad for them for the situation they're in. I don't feel bad. I think they're both kind of pathetic, and I'm angry at some of the horrible stuff they've done. But they're just sad to watch. And like the first thing that Beverly does is like walk around calling out for his brother.
Yeah.
He never once looks over and recognizes that his brother is dead. Like, cut open on the table. I don't think he even I don't think he even realizes that Beverly. Like, I don't think he's willing to believe that Elliot's not. It's not so much that he's not alive anymore. It's that he can't. Like that part of that psychic link is gone. There's no brother, and so I think he walks out the door. He legitimately thinks about like carrying on with his day and his life. He calls Claire, right? And then I think it's like once it dawns on him, he resigns himself to going back there and dying because he can't live without that connection. So it's very sad and like I said, kind of pathetic and yeah.
So yeah, I was gonna read. You already. That's the ending.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. I'm glad you. What a picture! What a film! But there, I mean,
man,
and like you said, there's a line too in this that she says. What's the character's name?
Claire.
Claire. Well, Claire says, and let me because I wrote it down because it was devastating to me. She goes because she's referring to the fact that she is infertile. She says, when I'm dead, I'll just be dead. I'll never be a woman at all, just a girl. And I went, oh my God.
That is rough.
What an awful,
that's some solid dialogue, though.
It's really, and it's really blunt. It's really good dialogue. And it's also just like that's in that moment where you're like, you feel awful for her. Like, you're just like, come on. Come on. That's not okay.
Don't think like that.
Don't think like that. Yes, but yeah, you do, and like that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like even with these characters that are by no means quote unquote likable, there are moments of humanity where you can't help but just feel sad and bad for them. And
she's the character that I would say is the most not relatable is not the right word for it, but the easiest to cling to from a like I'm rooting for you standpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like like if I'm gonna get behind a character, it's hers.
But it's a movie about and like a lot of Cronenberg movies about being human and and all of and how people think humans should be. And,
Yep.
So there you go. I've often thought there should be. That was another line I wrote down. I often thought there should be beauty contests for the insides of bodies. That's a good Cronenberg.
There's some good dialogue in this movie.
There is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
That's Dead Ringers. There you have it.
I'm glad we did this.
Me too.
I know there was some of these movies we talked a little bit offline too about. They're rough. They're not fun watches.
Looking back, and I think the Summer of Cronenberg was my idea, so maybe I should apologize.
No.
I don't apologize. We enjoyed it. But it was doing 5 Cronenbergs in a row is not easy on the soul.
This is one of the things too. When I was a younger man, I think I may have handled this better. Like when I'm in my 20s and I'm experimenting with different films. And
I would.
I got my whole life ahead of me.
I would agree with that.
my teens, my college years. Like I'd be like, oh, let's knock out some Cronenberg today.
Yeah.
But now that I'm getting older and I'm like, I'm like, I've been working all day. I don't want to think about this stuff right now, Dave.
I don't want to think about the fact that my body's going to fall apart. You're
like my
bumming me out.
body is falling apart.
I know it is. Yeah.
When I'm in my 20s and I'm running around,
there's horrible stuff. Like I don't feel invincible or immortal anymore.
Yeah.
I can't watch this shit. Anyway, I can watch The Fly. Maybe The Brood. So we're going to mix it up a little bit for a while here, and that's not to say that we're not going to certainly not. We'll be talking about horror in all its forms. We'll be talking about horror movies and doing kind of reviews on horror movies still, absolutely. We're just going to take a break from the usual, like, pick a movie, review a movie, pick a movie, review a movie. And we hope you guys don't mind that change. Please let us know, obviously, as we go on. You know, we want to mix it up. We want to freshen it up. We want to do something a little different. Maybe Cronenberg got to us. Maybe he was like, he planted that seed in our heads, and now the seed is growing and saying, do different stuff. So, I mean, Tim, we talked about this. I mean, we're just going to come on and talk.
Yeah, we're going to wing it, I think, a little bit
for
more.
a little while. I mean, we're going to be talking about stuff, newer stuff, I think, more often. We're going to be talking about things like Prey is coming out soon. Some newer movies here and there that we can get on streaming. We're going to be talking about random horror subjects.
Yeah, I think we'll have a lot more. Because I think that's part of what we've had a lot of fun with the Tiny Terrors, too, when Nikki joined us.
Yeah, just kind of talking about horror.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a homework assignment, but horror.
Right.
And that's been fun for us, and I think we want to do more of that on the show proper. So, yes. And obviously if there's anything that you guys want us to talk about, whether it's a specific movie or you have a question for us, a horror question you want to pose to us that you want us to discuss on the show, or
segment ideas, topic ideas.
Yeah,
for sure.
A TV show, a horror comic that maybe we'd never seen or read or heard about that you'd like us to take a look at. Something, whatever. Send it to us. Honestly, tweet us, email us. We're on Facebook and all that.
Discord us. You join our Discord.
If you're on the Discord, do that. But no, we're just mixing it up. We're trying to keep it fresh. We're having a little bit of fun with it. Taking a break from the standard review a movie each episode for a little while. Not to say we're not going to do that on occasion still. It's going to happen. But, we want to mix it up.
We'll probably still watch old horror movies and talk about them.
I can promise you that will happen. One thing that I'm going to try and do with this, Tim, and I've been thinking about this a lot for the last couple of years, and especially recently. And I broke out of this shell for a while, pre-pandemic, and I think I got back in the shell during the pandemic, largely in part because I wanted comfort food during that time.
Yeah.
The world was a very crazy, scary place, and I wanted my entertainment to feel recognizable and enjoyable. So I just was watching a lot of the same shit I've watched, and I love that stuff, and I'll keep going back to it. But for a while there, before that, I was much more brave and bold like you are.
Yeah.
And I was watching new stuff. I was taking a chance on new things. And most of the time, when I do that, I find I really enjoy it, and it broadens and expands the library of films that I like watching and I like seeing. And I miss doing that, and I don't do it as often anymore. I'm going to try to more now.
Yeah.
I think getting Shudder back is going to be helpful for that. I'm going to try to do that, partially because Shudder's curated, so at least I know somebody has said, I like this movie, and it's not just like the Amazon Prime horror section where it's like, God knows what I'm about to watch. But I'm going to try and do more of that. And watch newer stuff, and watch stuff I've never seen before. I'm sure you have suggestions for me. I've checked out your honor rolls and stuff like that, too, because you got a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah,
so.
Even those, though, I mostly go off track. But what I'll say, though, is I like some of my favorite episodes we've done recently too are kind of like the video store episode, some of our side episodes where we focus on topic, but also the stuff we talk about, like the new, like the Scream movie, and the new Halloween movie, because we've spent the last 5 or 6 years kind of studying old horror. We kind of know what we're talking about.
I hope. Yeah. But we might not come off that way. I don't know. We'll see.
But I think we do bring some knowledge to a lot of these horror movies that I think may be valuable. How arrogant did that sound?
You're a real Elliot.
Right. We figured it out.
Yeah.
We figured it out. But no, I think so too. And I'm excited for you to start watching that.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going, because I think we provide some value in some ways. So,
for sure. So
yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so next time we'll be back talking about whatever we want to talk about.
Darn
You'll
straight.
find out what we do. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care.